we have a rather large show for you. So let's get to it.
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to Football Guys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
Well, you got to be a champion, and that means you had to get past week 16. We are here post-Christmas, and we hope everyone had a great Christmas holiday, a great Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, and all that kind of good stuff. Just be happy and be healthy, and be thankful that you are here. We got a lot of games to recap, so let's get to it. Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom, you, Bills, and Bears. And Bloom, I almost want to kind of attack all these games like just here's the game, Bloom.
Sure.
But we have to go through, and I'll tell you some of the highlights for both sides. But Josh Allen, a couple of touchdowns, couple of picks. So there you go. Rushing touchdown as well. 172 through the air, 41 on the ground, benefiting his fantasy day. Devin Singletary was a monster. 106 on 12 carries and a touchdown. James Cook, same monster. 99 yards on 11 carries, 1 touchdown. Gabe Davis had 345 and a touch. Dawson Knox had 3 for 38 and a touch. Stephon Diggs, 2 for 26. Oh, you got Stephon Diggs. You're fine. So we can talk about that. Justin Fields on the flip side with only 11 rushing yards, with 119 yards and a touchdown. Here comes Nathan Peterman in to throw a pick because that's kind of what he does. Nobody started Velus Jones or Dante Pettis. Jones, the leading receiver for the Bears with 52 yards. Pettis with 1 receiving touchdown. David Montgomery, 16 for 62. And Khalil Herbert, 6 for 7. And 2 for -4 as a receiver. Oh, my God. Okay, so it looked like just for a little bit, not first quarter, Bloom, you're like, okay, wait a second. And then the first half, you're, wait, it's 10-6. Can the Bears actually? No. No, they can't.
Right.
And they didn't.
First of all, apologies to everybody. I'm gonna have to be a little more like KOMA, Coma, Smooth Jazz, your Smooth Jazz DJ.
It's like NPR, Bloom. This morning, right.
Play the little thing in, the music. Why do we decide fantasy championship so late in the season? You got weather. You got teams playing for nothing. You got teams that look like they're playing for nothing, even though they're playing for something. It's really random, kinda. But I guess that's why the regular season in fantasy matters, because you get a chance. You get a chance to dance, and you might be the one that benefited from the randomness. You might have bowed out because of the randomness. The weather we thought was going to be affecting this one, but you also knew Josh Allen's like the prototypical cold weather quarterback. So if you stuck with him, I think you were rewarded with that. See, we've been talking about this all year. Buffalo has to have a running game. You can't go into the playoffs without a running game. Guess what they had in this one? A running game. Yeah. Now, it was Chicago's defense, so you can't get too excited about this. We're going to look at next week against Cincinnati. Wow, what a game on Monday night. You're more inclined to play Devin Singletary or James Cook. Wow, you see that burst with Cook. Classic slasher. Dawson Knox is coming on. You trust him. Gabe Davis was okay. Still makes a mistake every game, it seems like that. I hope you survive Stephon Diggs. I survived a Stephon Diggs game. I'm going to carry him into week 17. More on that later. Not that it's about me. Buffalo's still trying to hold on to that number 1 seed. But, they lose to Cincinnati. They can fall as far as the number 3 seed. So a lot on the line in the AFC playoff picture. They got to earn it. And on the Chicago side, we're doing both teams. Fields, a dud. So it all led up to this. All that amazing revelation that Fields was for your fantasy team. And, you knew the passing game wasn't going to be there, but he didn't break free as a runner. Yes, it was David Montgomery over Khalil Herbert. That's going to be interesting as they have a decision to make about David Montgomery in free agency. Cole Kmet, I guess, the depleted wide receivers. But they're going to Detroit. They can play spoiler. Right now, they're picking number 2. They're not going to be worse than number 7. Again, as we've been saying for weeks, Bears fans, the future is brighter. Not so much on this Saturday.
Not so much now. And now it is Saints and it is Browns time, Sigmund. And I will talk a little bit lighter too. It's like the beginning of On the Couch, right?
Right.
There's your host, Sigmund Bloom. There you go. Smoky. The smoky sound. Saints, Browns is our next game. And it's, 17-10. Saints get the win. And, let's go over the highlights. Taysom Hill rushing touchdown, 56 yards running. Okay, there you go. Alvin Kamara, 76 yards on the ground, rushing touchdown. All right, there you go. Rashid Shaheed, more Rashid Shaheed. Cool, 4 for 41. All right, Kamara had 2 for 34 as receiver there as well. I don't like talking about the Browns quarterback, although he had a rushing touchdown. Nick Chubb, 24 for 92 on the ground, catch for 10 yards as well. Amari Cooper, 6 for 72. David Njoku, 2 for 14. Oh, there you go. So this Saturday had some exciting games. Sunday had some interesting games, Blue. Sunday right now, but let's get through this one because this one, the snoozer.
It was bad. This one was an even worse weather game than the Chicago weather game. But it was Taysom Hill, just like we thought. There were very few tight ends better than Taysom Hill in Week 16. T.J. Hawkinson, George Kittle, some of the usual suspects. But that's it. Greg Dulcich, I guess, slightly, but they were barely even using Taysom Hill. Dennis Allen ceased, right? Dennis Allen strikes again. They were barely even using him, and then finally they started using him, and voila, he scores a touchdown. Alvin Kamara bouncing off some guys, running really hard. So he also rose to the occasion in this weather. They were stronger, más macho than Nick Chubb. Yeah, Deshaun Watson doesn't like playing in the cold. Could you tell? If you, for some reason, left Amari Cooper in your lineup, at least you got 13.2 in a PPR league. New Orleans isn't out of it yet. They can win out. They got Philly and Carolina, and have Tampa lose to Carolina and lose to Atlanta. Saints can make the playoffs. Not impossible. We've seen stranger scenarios unfold in the last 2 weeks of the season. Houston, on the other hand, is getting a pretty good pick from Cleveland. Not a top 5, top 7 pick like what Detroit and Seattle are going to get, but still a pretty good pick. And they're going to try to be a spoiler going to Washington.
Yeah, being a spoiler alert, the Seahawks are damn good. And, well, that's what you get when you talk about Seahawks and Chiefs. Our next game to recap here as we continue on through this very robust show. And, well, Kansas City gets it done, of course. 24-10, the final score, and they're rolling, nipping on the heels of Buffalo. Got to keep winning. And Chiefs are 12-3. Seahawks are 7-8. And it's falling apart. 2-15, 1 up and 1 down for Geno Smith. DK Metcalf, 7 for 81. We knew there would be no Tyler Lockett, so where that meant more Laquan Treadwell? No. Noah Fant had a touchdown. Awesome. DJ Dallas had 6 catches. Okay. Kenneth Walker, 26 for 107. This makes sense. Metcalf again, 7 for 81. That makes sense. Colby Parkinson, 3 for 45. Huh? Okay. Yeah. Marquise Goodwin, 4 targets, no catches. On the other side, Travis Kelce, 6 for 113. That makes sense. Isaiah Pacheco, 14 for 58. And then 1 for 32 as a receiver. McKinnon gets the receiving touchdown. Kadarius Toney gets the receiving touchdown. Pat Mahomes gets 224 and 2 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown to benefit his day. And then MBS, a bunch of nothing. Juju Smith-Schuster, 3 for 27. It was just one of those, Bloom, where Kansas City didn't really have to put the foot on the gas. Right. They didn't. And because of that, your Chiefs assets, now your normal assets, and that rushing touchdown helps Mahomes, to be sure. And Kelsey's days, obviously a monster if you have Travis Kelce. Number 1 overall pick next year in fantasy.
Maybe, yeah.
I just look at it and go, oh, this is kind of boring for 24-10 Chiefs over Seahawks.
Yeah, on the Seattle side, Geno can only do so much. He can only take so much on his shoulders. And here's a weird story. The Seahawks lost badly because they didn't start relying on Kenneth Walker until it was too late, huh? I thought this team was going to be, especially with Kenneth Walker. I know he was on the injury report, barely practiced. He looked fine. So you have some faith in him, and he wasn't a dud if you trusted him in this game. Obviously, Metcalf was okay. Fant got you a touchdown. Geno Smith not so good in this one. We were feeling lukewarm about him. Did okay in the cold at least. But Seattle sees for this show, because there's the fantasy playoffs, but there's the playoffs. Hey, Jim Mora. And I was trying to, if I could, encapsulate playoff scenarios now that we only have 2 weeks left. NFC is just too chaotic. There's just too much. All right. There's a lot of win Seattle, keep winning, and you'll probably go to the playoffs. You need Washington and Green Bay to lose, though. They're 1-5. There's a ton of teams that have done a second half swoon. and still have a chance to go to the playoffs. Seattle being one of them. Goodwin got hurt in this game, by the way. Then the wrist injury got aggravated. We'll see if Tyler Lockett is back. They got the Jets next week, another team that has got a lot of playoff scenarios causing their brains to hurt. Patrick Mahomes, what can he do? He can put his hand down and vault himself at the pylon for yet another Patrick Mahomes highlight. And that's what's great. You can see players that have a ton of early success in their careers. Maybe they don't have it in them to keep that up, right? As the rest of the NFL catches up to them. Not the case with Patrick Mahomes. And again, we've seen what Tyreek Hill has done for Miami. Not Patrick Mahomes, you look at EPA or whatever stat you like, DVOA, by any measure, he's the best quarterback in the game. He deserves an MVP. And I'm not slighting Jalen Hurts here. Jalen Hurts deserves a ton of recognition for what he's done this year. But how can you say there's a player more valuable than Patrick Mahomes?
Right.
If it's the most valuable player award, that's easy. Who knows how many he's going to win before his career is over? Travis Kelce, most valuable fantasy player award. And that's it, basically. Well, the running backs, Isaiah Pacheco and Cecil, we've been talking about this for a while. It's just that he runs with such intensity, right? What did he say?
And he's banged up, and he's just like, and he's like pissed that he's injured, a little bit banged up, whatever.
Yeah, you just love to see that. You love to see that. It's like Frank Gore running like every play, your life depends on it. Running like those stories in a war where someone has to get a message back through enemy lines to win the war. That's how Isaiah Pacheco runs. And Jerick McKinnon with another touchdown. So it wasn't quite a weak winner, but if you put him in, you were happy with what you got. Hey, Kansas City's just waiting. If Buffalo slips up in these last two games, then they're going to have the number one seed. And Patrick Mahomes has never played a playoff game as a road team. He's played in the Super Bowl and he's played in Kansas City, and that's it. So we'll see if it turns out that way. Poor Denver facing Kansas City next week.
Yeah. More on that in a little bit. Let's talk those plucky Vikings. You can never count them out, Bloom. Because the Saturday's games are going on. I was like, wow, the Giants are actually nope. 17 points in the fourth quarter, get Minnesota the victory. 27-24, the final score. Vikings over the Giants. Daniel Jones, 1 touchdown, 1 INT, 334 through the air. So let's go through this. Richie James, 8 for 90. Maybe. What the heck, flex? Isaiah Hodgins, actually, maybe 8 for 89 and a touchdown. Darius Slayton, 4 for 79. Saquon Barkley, 8 for 49 as a receiver. And then 14 for 84 on a rushing touchdown. 34 yards rushing for Daniel Jones there as well. Daniel Bellinger, 2 for 27. Tight end is so brutal. Kirk Cousins on the flip side, 3 touchdowns. Never count them out. And when you can rely on Justin Jefferson, 12 for 133 and a touchdown. Awesome. TJ Hawkinson, 13 for 109 and 2 touchdowns. Lions could have used him on Saturday. Anyway, Dalvin Cook, 14 for 64 on the ground. Alexander Madison, 4 for 17 on the ground. KJ Osborne, 3 for 17. So, and Adam Thielen, by the way, 1 for 6. What are you guys' thoughts on Adam Thielen? And don't start him. But either way, Minnesota, and this is how a team gets hot, stays hot, gets this belief in themselves. We can come back from anything, any comers. We take all comers. We could do it all. This is how that happens. So Minnesota, good on you. Let's see how far these guys can go.
Yeah, the Giant side. And again, hats off to Brian Dable and Daniel Jones. They're doing very much with very little. They're almost certainly going to make the playoffs. They just have to, I shouldn't say this. Actually, we've been through enough seasons where I should never say anything like that, because any scenario with 2 games left, if it's possible, then it's actually possible. I don't care what the percentages are, but the Giants just need to beat the Colts, and they all but beat the Vikings. They're contending with teams that they don't have a roster to match those teams, but they're doing it. And it's Daniel Jones. How much money has Daniel Jones made this year? $100 million, $150 million. Probably going to get the transition tag next year. Although I'd love to see him get something like the deal Ryan Tannehill got from the Titans, right? Like 3 years, $100 million, something like that. Why not, Giants, right? Watch him play. And I'll say you this about Daniel Jones. And I know this might sound kind of empty. He's going to give everything to his team. He's given everything to his team. And that's a great place to start. right? Truly a selfless leader when you watch the way he plays the game and you watch how he composes himself. And maybe Dave Gettleman wasn't crazy. I mean, at least about Daniel Jones. Well, he was crazy about him, but he wasn't crazy to take him with the number 6 pick, because you're seeing the realization of the tools plus the leadership plus improvement, actual improvement and dedication to his craft. He's throwing to Darius Slayton, Richie James, and Isaiah Hodgins. How many teams wanted any of those receivers at the beginning of this year? Hodgins, they got off of waivers. James was just sitting out free agency, a minimum contract. And sure, Darius Slayton, I think they tried to trade him. Nobody wanted to trade for him.
Right.
And this is a team, Kenny Galladay, Kadarius Toney, nothing. And yet they're still doing it. So hats off to Daniel Jones, and hats off to you if you started him. Saquon Barkley's getting his form back. So here's a scenario where the Giants could be a spoiler in the playoffs. As Saquon Barkley reaches down, pulls the sword from the stone, and has one of those games where this is why we love the NFL playoffs, is it pushes players to that extra level that we didn't know, or maybe they didn't even know that they had. It was a tremendous game-tying drive and 2-point conversion, and the Vikings had a better miracle in them. Got to beat the Colts, and you're going to be in. Or they play Philadelphia in Week 18. Now, there's a ton of scenarios where whether Philly or Dallas have something to play for in Week 18, it's going to change the playoff landscape. Minnesota, Greg Joseph. See, remember when Minnesota was let down by their kicker again and again? You got a 61-yard field goal to win a game in this one. Probably would have been good from 64, 63, 64. It's great to see that for these fans. And you laid it out, Cease. How do you interpret this Vikings team? Because they're eking out all these 11-0 in one-score games. Is that the stat? Because they're eking out all these games, are they really just a team that should be like scuffling for I guess they could win the NFC North, but
here's where confidence comes into play, because that 11-0 in one-score games tells you like, oh, they're not like the Chiefs, right?
No,
or even the Bills or whatever, but like because they're doing it and their minds the way
right.
Your mind is very powerful.
Yeah, it is.
Like it's creating this reality of like we're nobody can beat us.
Yeah, things are going to break our way. It's creating the reality of when it comes down to one bounce, it's going to bounce for us. And you saw, I got JJ2K, baby. Oh, I don't even know what to say about him. I don't even know what to say. And I don't care how high you were on Justin Jefferson. There's absolutely no way anybody except for Justin Jefferson himself could have projected this for his career. Right. He has the first, I don't want to be sacrilegious here. He has the first 3 years of a career that basically puts him. We're talking like Randy Moss and Jerry Rice, basically.
Yeah, and how often do we get to challenge that? We can challenge running backs. We'll see a 2,000-yard rusher once in a while. You know what I mean? And it's not even about the 2,000, but just look at everything that he does in his complete game. Yeah. Randy Moss would take plays off. Randy Moss was a go route type of guy. Randy Moss was awesome, and he was incredible, and it was wonderful. But he still wasn't Jerry Rice, my opinion.
Right.
Justin Jefferson is challenging Jerry Rice.
Yeah.
Because he's faster, and he's the route runner, and he's the grinder, and he's the tough catch guy, and he's the footwork guy. Like,
right.
He's perfect.
Right. And I'm down here in Southeast Louisiana, so I love that he's repping Southeast Louisiana football. And boy, remember when we all saw that Eagles pass on him for Jalen Reagor? Like, whoa. Now, the Eagles, it's not like it changed their destiny, their franchise, but yeah, it was a gift. Under the tree, Kirk Cousins. And after everything that we saw with Kirk Cousins, and remember this too, this is maybe this team freed a little bit by not having Mike Zimmer glowering around the building, right? A lot of the same guys. Kevin O'Connell, lighter touch, right? Kevin O'Connell, not somebody that's going to rule by fear or strength. And this team has adopted that along with Kirk Cousins, who might be a little bit weird, but when the game is on, they trust him. See, it's that family thing, right? Like, you're weird. I don't totally understand you, but I know that I trust you to make. Kirk Cousins, go look up how many fourth quarter game-winning drives. It'll surprise you how many Kirk Cousins has had in his career. He's a clutch quarterback. You don't think of him that way, but he is. You know who's clutch? TJ Hawkinson. Wow. See, says there been another mid-season trade that has so greatly affected a player's fantasy value. Where TJ Hawkinson, we've been waiting and waiting and waiting for this in Detroit, and it just never came online. They tried. Minnesota, they had a plan for him. It really makes you wonder how much Irv Smith was underachieving, because I think it was there for him.
Oh, yeah, certainly. They had talked about it, like how they wanted him to be much more, and it just didn't come together.
Hawkinson had, I think, basically a helmet catch touchdown in this one. And one that has some beautiful stills, old school photography of it as the play was unfolding. It was the kind of play that looked impossible when the ball was in the air and still looked impossible when it was over and counted as a touchdown. That's how I survived my Stephon Diggs game, by the way. TJ Hawkinson and George Kittle. Thank you, guys. Minnesota still has the number 2 seed. They cannot afford to lose, or they're going to lose the conference record tiebreaker to San Francisco. So that number 2 seed's important. But there are scenarios where they could still end up the number 1 seed, depending on what Philadelphia does. So again, how do you interpret this team? Are they going to they're just going to bow out when they face a San Francisco or a Philadelphia, maybe even lose in the first round in a rematch against the Giants? It's possible. The Giants play. How can you watch this game and say, no, the Vikings are a better team than the Giants? But clearly they're not. They go to face Green Bay. They can eliminate Green Bay next week. That'd be fun. Again, trying to hold on to the number 2 seed. Really interesting last 2 weeks, Cease. A lot at stake.
Yes, a lot at stake as we continue and we move on. It is Cincinnati and it is New England up next. Week 16 recap here on the Audible. And, Bengals get the win. 22-18 is the final score. Joey B, 375, 3 touchdowns, 2 INTs. T. Higgins, 8 for 128 and a touchdown. Trenton Irwin, 3 for 45 and 2 touchdowns there. Jamar Chase, 8 for 79. Okay. Joe Mixon, 7 catches, 43 yards, also 16 for 65 on the ground. Samaje Perine's back to doing not much in this game. And, Belichick tried to take somebody away, and it didn't really work at all. By the way, Mitchell Wilcox, 6 for 35. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Can continue to do a little something. Mac Jones is Mac Jones. I love is Mac Jones a dirty player? Mac Jones just needs to be good, okay? And I guess he was okay, whatever. I'm so over Mac Jones. He's fine. 240 and 2 is what he gets. Kendrick Bourne gets 6 for 100 and a touchdown. Jacoby Myers, 6 for 83 and a touchdown. Ramondre Stevenson, 13 for 30. So that's pretty much it as far as highlights go for both teams, with most of the highlights, of course, being on the Bengals side.
This game was not nearly as close as the final score, and yet the Bengals should have lost this game. That's the kind of week 16 it was.
Yeah.
Bengals dominate this game, really, and almost lost it. It was Joe Burrow, outstanding. Joe Mixon at least getting involved as a receiver. It's Higgins and Chase. Really, that's what you're in. Mitchell Wilcox and Trenton Irwin. What?
Oh.
But Higgins and Chase, and we see the pass offense doing what they need to do. They lit up a little early, but they're in the playoffs, and yet they still have only earned that. The week 18 game against Baltimore is going to be for the division. Unless they beat Buffalo next week and Baltimore loses to Pittsburgh. Now, let's make this simple. You beat Buffalo and you beat Baltimore and you're the number 2 seed, Cincinnati. Regardless, whatever seed they are, they showed us last year, wherever they have to play, whoever they have to play. And see, going into the season, I want to revisit that. I don't think we were as guilty as this. I was probably at least somewhat guilty of this. We were still thinking about the last 13 seconds. We were still thinking about Allen and Mahomes. And we probably weren't giving the Bengals their due. And they started 0-2. And they, just like last year, they've had to evolve. They lost Lyle Collins for the year in this one. They've had to evolve. They've had to adapt. And they have. And this is a really resilient team. And you don't hear the name Zach Taylor mentioned a lot. But at the very least, Zach Taylor's not getting in the way, right?
Right.
He's doing something right, because this team is resilient.
And through
And
different iterations, Bloom. We
yeah,
talk about Mahomes being Gumby on that touchdown. Like, you have
yeah,
to be flexible in
yeah,
life and in football. And Taylor is flexible because no Mixon. Okay, we're going to use Pirine this way. Mixon's back. Okay, we're going to use him this way. Like,
right.
receivers banged up, Joey B banged up. Like, they've been through a lot in just this. And I know we're at the end of the season, but just in this regular season, they've played like 3 seasons.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll see what happens in their fourth, and I look forward to it. AFC bracket's going to be just incredible. On the New England side, how did they somehow hang in this game after they were down 22-0? Well, you had a Hail Mary basically when they were down like 22-12 that Kendrick Bourne didn't quite volleyball to Jacoby Myers, but you might have thought that's how it went down. Myers in the right place at the right time for a Hail Mary touchdown, basically. And Marcus Jones, let's give it up for Bill Belichick on this front. We dunk on Bill Belichick, the GM, sometimes, right? I remember watching Marcus Jones going into the draft season. And I'm the kind of player, maybe because I played in too many fantasy leagues with return yards, that I'm thinking, why isn't this guy like a borderline first round pick? Right? I mean, maybe he's not going to be the best slot corner in the draft. He might be the best return man in the draft. I didn't even envision him in being involved on offense. But when you add up the cumulative value of how a player like that can help your team win games, I thought he would have been drafted higher. I mean, personally, I thought he would have been drafted higher. He's been one of the stories of the season for this team. There were times that their offense couldn't get a spark going. He was the spark. He's been the spark in the return game, and you saw him with a pick 6 in this one. See, so when you see a pick 6 and you see the ball in the air and you kind of get a feel for how the players are distributed on the field, you think, "Ooh, that could be a pick 6."
It's got a chance.
You didn't think that about this one. You did not think it was like a 70-yard pick 6. And Marcus Jones is a sensational player. He's a player that people need to get to know. He's a player that, at the very least, remember the Patriots were the first team really to say, let's see what we can do with Cordero Patterson on offense. And they give him a chance on offense and give him a chance to affect the game. So that's how this was a close game, because it's not because of Mac Jones. Okay. Kendrick Bourne's pretty good in this one. It wasn't because of Ramondre Stevenson. Boy, there's a long list of players this week, Cecil. You're like, well, this player helped you get this far, and you probably lost because of him. But maybe the other team had more of those guys. It's kind of avoiding the negative. Would it eliminate the suck? That's what David Dodds had that article for us every year. It was just how many of those landmines did you avoid in your lineup?
Mm-hmm.
But Mac Jones, and there's some good chat room talk. Is Mac Jones a dirty player? Like you said, he just needs to play better. It wouldn't matter. We wouldn't be talking about that kind of stuff if he was playing better. So we'll see if we see Bailey Zappi. New England is still alive. Okay. They need the Chargers to lose to the Colts or the Broncos, and they need to beat the Bills. So they're still alive, but
well, that ain't gonna happen.
Yeah, they're coughing up blood. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So when this game happened, Lions and Panthers, the first thing I thought was like, oh my God, I have to hear what Sigmund has
I
to
bloomed
say.
him. There's nothing else to say.
You bloomed them. You bloomed them. The Panthers 37, the Lions 23. And let's get into it. But Jared Goff, hey, from a fantasy lens, 355 and 3 and 15 yards rushing. You'll take that all day, baby. Now, DeAndre Swift 4 for 12. Jamal Williams 7 for 11. Okay. All right. That's 17-point second quarter for Carolina. Made you get away from some things. DJ Chark 4 for 108. Amon-Ra St. Brown 7 for 76. Khalif Raymond 1 for 56. Good job, buddy. So there you go. That's it for them. Jameson Williams is doing nothing.
Right.
Sam Darnold. There's next year, everybody. Sam Darnold 250 and a touch. And then DJ Moore gets 5 for 83 and a touch. Terrace Marshall 2 for 55. Dynasty alert. Laviska Shenault 3 for 53. Okay. Super deep dynasty. Crazy. I still have him in some dynasty. But anyway. And then when you run for 320 yards and 3 touchdowns, and you pass for 250, by the way, because usually in a game, if we ever get to a 300-yard rushing game, Bloom, it's like, and they passed for 80 yards. Like, no, 320 yards on the ground and 250 passing. Oh, my God. Dante Foreman, 21 for 165 and a touchdown. Chuba Hubbard, 12 for 125. Sam Darnold with the rushing touchdown. Raheem Blackshear with the rushing touchdown. So absolute dominance on the ground. I mean, nothing the Lions could do about it. So you got your manhood back.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this, Bloom, because I was wondering, what's Bloom going to say?
Yeah, well, it's just sad because if the Lions had won this game that looked very winnable, looking at the schedule, then they would be in the playoffs right now. Not in the playoffs, like clinched a playoff spot, but in control of their destiny. And there's still a chance. You're telling me there's a chance. There's still a chance. Goff was solid. Let's make sure that we remember this. Goff has established himself as the quarterback for this team. Denver didn't do them any favors with that Rams first round pick. Spoiler alert. The backfield's a mess. I don't know how you can trust any Lions back, even with DeAndre Swift not on the injury report, even with Jamal Williams getting banged up. And my good friend, Uriah Zanehunt. What's up? Love you, man. He's been hinting at me, hey, there's more going on to this DeAndre Swift thing than we know, than we're aware of. And it sure looks that way, right? I mean, I think if they could redo it, they probably wouldn't take him, right, Cease? I mean, something's there. And for fantasy, it's really frustrating because you see the potential both for fantasy and for real NFL impact. DJ Chark, what's good about Chark for him, I'm happy for him, is after that pretty gnarly injury he had, he on this prove it deal has proved it. I think he's going to have even more money coming to him as that speed, that deep ball game. Maybe they don't need him. And I don't know what happened to Jameson Williams. I don't know if it's something about the conditions, the cold, the turf. I don't understand how you're scaling up Jameson Williams and then you barely see him in this game, but that's okay. Shane Zylstra. See, I know we like to joke like 0%. Really, zero. If you had Shane, I mean, even in a 32-team league, I'd probably say, nah, that's not deep enough for Shane Zylstra, right? And I always like to pull out the last in our phone book, first in our hearts, Shane Zylstra. Okay, that's week 16. That's why, again, we have all this work we put into our fantasy leagues. So a week where Shane Zylstra scores 3 touchdowns determines who goes on. If they beat Chicago and Green Bay and Washington loses once, or Seattle loses once, or the Giants lose 2 times, you need 2 of those 3. So we're not done yet. Lions. You got to beat Chicago next week. We've seen this before. The week after Christian McCaffrey got traded, Dante Foreman and Chuba Hubbard. You can't stop them. And then what's crazy is the Lions' run defense over the last 6 weeks or so has been about as good as any in the league after being one of the worst in the league. What happened? What happened in this game? Did they eat the fish? This is like going back to Airplane. Do the kids still know about Airplane? Did they eat the fish? I don't know what happened in this game.
I know a pilot who wants to write a new Airplane, and he was talking to me about it a couple of weeks ago at that Star Wars party. And I was like, jot down all your ideas, and I can put you in contact with the people that can make that happen. Because he's like, I think we could do a new Airplane.
Yeah.
Go for it, man. Yeah.
There's a lot of layers to that one. Sam Darnold making himself some money. Sam Darnold showing that at the very least he can be a plus game manager with the tools he has, and DJ Moore making plays. The Panthers control their playoff destiny. Steve Wilks. So can we look back at Steve Wilks' tenure in Arizona and say maybe it wasn't Steve Wilks was the problem? Maybe, just maybe.
Yeah.
You talk about the sliding door stuff, Cease. Steve Wilks just unceremoniously ushered out. You get this Kingsbury Kime era. We see where that's ended up. More on that later. Meanwhile, Steve Wilks comes in. They were 2-7 with Matt Rule. Imagine if they just had it. Imagine if they just hadn't gone into the year with Matt Rule, right? Okay. I mean, we all knew that Matt Rule was a dead man walking as far as his coaching prospects for this team. Imagine if they had just realized that, because obviously there's something there for this team and this roster and the way that they can summon this up. And I'm just really happy for Steve Wilks. Go into Tampa Bay next week. Beat Tom Brady. It's maybe not the Death Star. What's something smaller in Star Wars that you blew up? I don't even know. It's not the Death Star anymore. It's the pirate ship. What's the equivalent of a slave one? That's something. We don't want to see that blown up. Anyway, I'm getting too deep into the Star Wars metaphors, Cease, and I just say I'm happy for Steve Wilkes.
I'm thinking of all those Star Cruisers or Star Destroyers that were hidden on Exegol. I was like, wait a second. So you had a hidden planet that you had to fly through a black hole to get to, and you had like a bazillion Star Cruisers.
You know what else was there, Cease?
What?
All those story twists that they had to come up with to make that story make any sort of sense.
Right. And then Palpatine's granddaughter.
But if you go through the black hole, it all makes sense.
Exactly.
Andor's excellent, by the way. We're 10 episodes in. It's really excellent.
It is. Yes. Probably the best thing Star Wars Disney has done.
Excited. I can tell you, the love of my life, the gift. It's Christmas every day for me with my beautiful, lovely wife, Kate, in my life. She said, I'm excited to watch the Ahsoka Tano show now. Like we were watching Andor. She's like, I'm excited for the next show.
Good.
Wow.
Ahsoka should be damn good as long as Ahsoka should be on Mandalorian levels, like different from Andor. Andor's more of a slow burn, but yeah, no, Ahsoka. There's a reason why I got my Clone Wars #1 off to CGC.
Anyway. Yeah, that's his second tattoo, right? If you got a second tattoo, it'd be Ahsoka Tano.
Let's just do that show. Star Wars show, podcast number 3600. TK421, why aren't you not at your post? 420, why aren't you at your post? Falcons and Ravens is our next game that we're going to talk about, Bloom. And well, again, I can always tell jotting down the timestamps, Bloom, like which ones are exciting and which ones we kind of cruise through a little bit, because it's like, okay, 17-9, Ravens over Falcons. Desmond Ridder doesn't do anything. Tyler Algier now 18 for 74. Drake London, 7 for 96. Algier also had 4 for 43 as a receiver. So there were two assets from the Falcons you could trust. Cordell Patterson, 8 for 17. 1 catch for 14 yards. That sucks. On the Ravens side, Tyler Huntley didn't do much, as we knew. 1 touchdown to Demarcus Robinson. And then Mandrews, 3 for 45. Okay, yeah. Gus Edwards, 11 for 99. Good. J.K. Dobbins, 12 for 59. Oh. Okay, so again, Bloom, this will be about a 2-minute recap, and then we'll get on to another dud of a game. We've got some good ones coming, everybody. So hang in there as we go through almost all of week 16.
Yeah, for the Falcons, the dream is over. They're eliminated. But progress, I think this year represents progress for them. You've got something in Tyler Algier, who has realized his best form as just an effort runner. It's okay. It's okay if you have adequate tools, but plus effort, right? Isaiah Pacheco, right? Mm-hmm. So Algier, and again, maybe the bottom line here is you don't need to take running backs on the first or second day. Maybe. Anyway, especially if you're committed to the run like the Falcons have been this year. And Drake London, you gotta love to see this. Just a quick note on Drake London. Another fumble. He had a costly fumble last week. Fumbles early in this one. He had some sort of thermals on or something. I think maybe the way the ball was tucked, and to him at least, it was like, nah, we're taking this off. It comes back out with the bare arms. In this one in the cold, he looks like he's gonna be really good. He looks like he's gonna be really, really good. Let's get him a quarterback. All right. And Desmond Ridder at least getting better. At least there was progress. He's not the answer, but they're gonna play Arizona. Boy, a meaningless game. There's a black hole of meaninglessness. Tyler Huntley was better. See if Lamar Jackson's going to be back. Dobbins and Edwards, this is getting more complicated. They're both just what the heck flexes. Mark Andrews, maybe if Lamar Jackson's back out there. See, and believe me, I could have a long list of all the calls I got wrong for people. A lot of people said, really, start Taysom Hill over Mark? Yes, Taysom Hill over Mark Andrews. Now, that was just last week. I'm not going to say start Taysom Hill this week against Philadelphia, but what has Mark Andrews done? Some people saying he's playing hurt. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all. If just Mark Andrews isn't 100% right now. But Baltimore keeps winning. They're more of a defense-driven team. Running game's getting online. Lamar Jackson should be back. If they beat the Steelers and beat the Bengals, they're going to win the division. It hasn't been pretty, but all the wins count the same. And this team, we're heralding how the Bengals are so resilient. We're not talking so much about the Ravens because we just expect that from a team led by Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh, and a team that's done what this team has done over the recent years, and they're getting it together But at the same time, this has been a team that has not been able to follow through in the postseason. We'll see if this one changes.
Texans and Titans is our next game that we're going to talk about. About right on time, Bloom. It's about 3 minutes. On the dud games, we're like 3 minutes. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Texans, Titans. Here's another 3 minutes, everybody.
A minute.
Yeah, a minute.
Time me.
It's like name that tune. I can do that and recap in less than 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Nobody remembers name that tune. 19-14 is the final score. Texans over what are you doing, Houston? Like, what are you doing winning over the Titans? Whatever. Davis Mills and Jeff Driscoll, unstoppable. Davis Mills had a touchdown.
Sure.
Went to Brandon Cooks, 4 for 34. Philip Dorsett, 3 for 45. Nobody started him. Jordan Akins, probably not. 3 for 39. Royce Freeman, hey Royce, 16 for 32.
Still in the league.
Malik Willis, hey everybody, he's not ready. This is what you get. Couple of picks, 99 yards, almost got into triple digits. Robert Woods, 4 for 30. Why am I reading this? Derrick Henry, seriously, 126 and a rushing touchdown. Willis also had a rushing touchdown. It's like, what? Oh, and Chiggy. I love Chiggy Okonkwo.
Right,
I got a catch for 10 yards, whatever. But yeah, here we go, Bloom. We got a scorcher coming up, so let's get through this one.
Yeah. The Davis Mills is doing a little bit. Don't win again, Texans. You've done so much to show pride that these players have for this franchise. Lovey Smith. We love Lovey. Don't win again, or you're going to lose the number 1 pick. Boy, is Malik Willis just rough out there. Like you said, Cease. Too bad he doesn't get the Jordan Love treatment, right? If he give him like 3 years in the incubator, and let's see what he does in year 4, because you can see that, yeah, the NFL is probably right to let him fall to the 3rd round, and the Steelers were probably right to take Kenny Pickett over him. We know that Derrick Henry is going to continue to be awesome, but he cannot win by himself. And now it all comes down to week 18. The Tennessee-Jacksonville game will be the game for the division. And it brings up an interesting question because they play on a Thursday against Dallas in a meaningless game. It does not matter what Jacksonville does. It does not matter what Tennessee does. Week 18 will be for the division. Do you rest Derrick Henry in week 17? That will be maybe one of the only reasons to tune in. But for fantasy players, Derrick Henry's gotten you this far. A little bit troubling. The Tennessee has nothing to gain in week 17 in a scenario we don't usually see. See, week 17 means that you're number 1 seed or something. Really odd. And by the way, it looks like with Ryan Tannehill unlikely to come back in the playoffs, Mike Vrabel's genitalia will remain intact for another year.
There you go. That is a scorcher. Commanders and 49ers is our next game that we're going to talk about. And hey, look at here. We got to talk about those tricky 49ers as they go 37-20 over the Commanders. And they're 11-4, and they're rolling, Bloom. Commanders 7-1, and Carson Wentz got in the game. So that should just be the lead. And Carson Wentz came into the game. Threw a touchdown, no picks. Good job. 123. And everyone that he throws to must be very good. Terry McLaurin, 4 for 77 and a touch. Jahan Dotson, 6 for 76 and a touch. Curtis Samuel, 5 for 52 and 1 touchdown. Logan Thomas, 6 for 35. Brian Robinson, 22 for 58. Gibson didn't do anything. Jonathan Williams is out producing him. So there you go. Brock Purdy, everyone's darling. 234, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT. George Kittle, 6 for 120 and 2 touchdowns. Brandon Ayuk, 5 for 81. And then Christian McCaffrey, 15 for 46 and a touchdown. Ray McLeod, 1 for 71 and a touchdown. McCaffrey also had a couple of catches. So limit what your quarterback does. Play great defense. Run your system true to form. And, well, don't turn it over. Recipe for success. Great success. I feel like Borat. Great success.
Yes.
For Kyle Shanahan.
Washington. Who's the quarterback? And this is a different type of quarterback controversy because this isn't a quarterback controversy where both quarterbacks, this is like the Jets, right? Where, you know, there's one that's hurt, there's one that isn't good, there's one that can't throw. This is a quarterback, right? This is a quarterback controversy where
Like them all.
Yeah, I mean, who really gives us the best chance to win? Because this team is still, even though they're on a losing streak right now, very much in the playoff hunt and can control their playoff destiny. So we'll wait and see. Ron Rivera, not sure. I think he's genuinely not sure who to start out there. But we saw them go to Wentz, and whatever Wentz did after they went to Wentz, it's kind of meaningless because the game was on hand. We know who the top back is. It's Brian Robinson, and well, it's San Francisco defense. We didn't get free. What a trio of receivers here. Now, you got Terry McLaurin, and if you have McLaurin, you're probably hoping it's Heineke. If you have Jahan Dotson, you're hoping it's Wentz. And Dotson, what a pick. Wow. This wide receiver class. Wow. It's like, which wide receiver should you take in the first round? Any of them. They all would have been fine. Yeah, they all would have been fine.
Select them all.
Yeah. Even Logan Thomas is coming back here. So Washington, you just beat Cleveland and Dallas, and who knows if Dallas will even have anything on the line by the time we get to Big 18, and you're in, and you love to see that for Ron Rivera. Otherwise, if they lose one of those games, then we get into all these crazy, chaotic scenarios in the NFC. On the San Francisco side, Christian McCaffrey was held in check, did get a garbage time touchdown, so that helped you out. George Kittle, is it just? I don't know if it's just. But George Kittle is absolutely on that Rob Gronkowski, Marshawn Lynch, joyful warrior level, like there's a very special place for players who are not only one of the best in the game, which in and of itself takes a confluence of dedication, of talent, of perseverance, all of belief in self, like spiritual, mental, all kinds of things. But then on top of it, to do it with joy. That's so I'm, for one, like, I know you've been suffering through some ups and downs with George Kittle. If George Kittle, and I'm not just saying this because I have a Kittle team in the finals, but if George Kittle and his back-to-back 2 touchdown games, that's awesome. If you had thought George Kittle is the kind of dude, if I'm making a team, a football team, a fantasy football team, a bunch of guys to help me like build a house, I don't even care what that team is going to do. A bunch of guys to go out down in the French Quarter and have a good time. I want George Kittle on my team. So if that led you to the fantasy finals, that's awesome as far as I'm concerned. Brock Purdy. Whew. Okay, so there's a very short list of quarterbacks who have had multiple pass touchdowns in their first 3 NFL starts. It's quite a list. You might remember Jay Cutler did that. Fantasy players will remember Billy Volek did that.
Yes.
Here's some names, and Mark Rippon did that. Kurt Warner, Dan Marino, and it's meaningful that Marino is the earliest name on this list. Rich Gannon did that, and Marcus Mariota. So anyway, but Brock Purdy, what a story! What a story for the San Francisco team. And Cecil, is it okay to say this defense is on the level right now? Of the Baltimore defense, of the Bucs defense, of the defenses that won, of the Broncos defense, are they on that level that won Super Bowls? Brock Purdy can be Trent Dilfer. Brock Purdy can be Peyton Manning with 1 foot in the grave, right?
Right.
They can win. And I was wrong when Garoppolo, and he may not even be out for the year anyway. Here's the scenario, Cease. Garoppolo, they make the Super Bowl. Garoppolo gets hurt in the 4th quarter, and Purdy comes in and authors the game-winning drive, right? But I think that one of the things we can say is that we need to give Kyle Shanahan some respect. And I nothing but love my heart for OFBG, Jason Wood. But I know he's been very skeptical at times. Why does everybody say Kyle Shanahan is such a great... I mean, come on. This season, and put it on D'Amico Ryans also. But we can't just keep saying, well, it can't be Kyle Shanahan, it's something else. It's Mike McDaniel. It's D'Amico Ryans, right? It's this, it's that. Come on. Come on. I mean, yes, we got to give credit to the young man, Brock Purdy, for being so well prepared. But you can't, this doesn't happen. I don't think this happens on any other team, that you have a 3rd string, Mr. Irrelevant quarterback, and the team is peaking.
Well, and let's be honest, Jimmy Garoppolo is not that good. And I'll speak directly to Wood or anyone else as someone who regularly talks to people around that building. Like, their system has been covering up the quarterback for a long time, right? Oh, you got to win in this league. Got to have elite quarterback play. No, you don't.
No.
It helps. It does. But this whole system is built so that one guy is the least important part. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, that is crazy. Well, and what's crazy about it, and it really is like, will tie your brain in a knot because it's a quarterback driven league.
Right.
So I've got an idea. Let's make a system where the quarterback doesn't matter, and it works. And it works partially because of this defense. And let's say Philadelphia, San Francisco is coming. This team is a really fun team to watch right now. And who would have thought? See, beginning of the year, you say Trey Lance is going to go down, Jimmy Garoppolo is going to go down, and you're going to feel as good about your Super Bowl chances as you have in the Kyle Shanahan era.
Yeah. Well, by the way, on D'Amico Ryans, I'll skip a little bit ahead. What did I see somebody tweet out about how Mercedes Lewis was drafted the same year as D'Amico Ryans?
He scored a touchdown this weekend, though.
Yeah, and that's why somebody put it out there. I can't remember, probably Aaron Nagler or something, right? One of our buddies. But if I noticed it on Twitter, Bloom, it was something. But anyway, it was just like Mercedes Lewis just caught a touchdown, drafted the same year as D'Amico Ryans, who's the hottest head coaching candidate in the league.
Yeah.
So there you go. Get you D'Amico Ryans, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Get you an Eagles and Dallas recap. Eagles and Cowboys recap. Am I right, everybody? Yeah, that's right. Eagles side is where we're going first, both sides. 40-34, Philadelphia. What the hell? I want to say Jason Wood. What the hell? Like, come on. You gotta let Jerry do that to you. Gardner Minshew playing the YOLO ball, of course. 355, 2 touchdowns, 2 INTs. Devontae Smith, 8 for 113, both of those touchdowns. AJ Brown, 6 for 103. Awesome. Dallas Goedert, 3 for 67. Okay, there you go. Dallas Goedert. Yes. Quez Watkins, 1 for 19. Well, that call didn't work. Minshew also had a rushing touchdown. And then you had Miles Sanders, 2165. Dak on the other side, 347. I see your Minshew, and I give you a Dak. 347, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT. 2 of them to CeeDee Lamb, 10 for 120 and 2 touchdowns. Michael Gallup, 4 for 36, the other touchdown. Dalton Schultz, 3 for 43. Tony Pollard, 6 for 61 as a receiver, 9 for 18 as a rusher. Prescott had 41 yards on the ground. Zeke Elliott, 16 for 55 and a rushing touchdown or catch for 6 yards. But then there's the T.Y. Hilton play. 1 catch, 52 all-important yards as the Cowboys. Come on, Philadelphia. Come on. You're becoming everyone's darling and you poop in your bed like that. Let's go.
And that's the bottom line here. Look, Philadelphia had to make a lot of mistakes, atrocious zone defense against Dak Prescott, and they still should have won this game, if not for some mistakes, Miles Sanders fumble. And there was more for Gardner Minshew. Fantasy karma, if going into your week 16 matchup, you were looking at your quarterbacks and you're like, sorry, Joe, yeah, I'm playing Gardner Minshew. I'm glad you got rewarded for that. And we'll see. Jalen Hurts is going to push the play now that they lost this game. They don't want this to go to week 18. Okay. Right. So we'll see. But again, speaking about quarterbacks, some of this means Gardner Minshew needs to be signed to start somewhere next year. How about the Broncos cut Russell Wilson and Minshew starts in Denver?
They wouldn't bring in Minshew because he'd be more popular than Russ. It's the same thing why Seattle wanted Kaepernick.
Right.
And they wouldn't sign him because they knew that all those guys would like Kaepernick more than they like Russ.
Yeah, human drama there.
Speaking of covering up your offense to make the quarterback the least important part.
Yeah. So Minshew, it could have been even better fantasy day for him. He had a few mistakes, but interceptions. Quez Watkins making some mistakes out there. Dallas Goedert's back. I think you're going to see more reliance on Goedert. Of course, the Slim Reaper putting a lot of fantasy teams to sleep if you were facing him this week. Got to beat New Orleans now. Now, Prescott was perfect. They have a lot of ways to measure this stuff. He was perfect against zone coverage, basically. And that's something Philadelphia's going to have to go back to the drawing board about, as I think that's something teams are going to notice. And CeeDee Lamb, let's mention that CeeDee Lamb was a maestro in this game. I feel like this was the game, Cease, when CeeDee Lamb announced, like, yeah, y'all love Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson and Devontae Adams and these guys. I'm as good as those guys. And he is. He hasn't necessarily had the fantasy situation to make it show up on the stat sheet. Yeah, but he's that good. T.Y. Hilton impact. And not just, he also drew a pass interference, a key pass interference in this game too. So how about that? And that means Michael Gallup maybe isn't going to have as much shine. Dalton Schultz isn't going to have as much shine. Zeke Elliott's still going to be a running back 2. Tony Pollard is still going to be a running back 2 for your team, and it's good. I think that they had it right the whole time, that this should be a two-back backfield. They still need some help to not be the team that goes on the road to face whoever wins the NFC South. And it's still Mike McCarthy. They found a way to win more because the other team made the mistakes. And don't you just feel Mike McCarthy as a guy that's going to pull a good team into a game they're supposed to win, but they lose in the playoffs? Sorry.
Yeah.
Just seen it too many times. But this is still important for Dallas winning this game to go into the playoffs, knowing that they can beat Philadelphia. And we'll see where it goes from there. They play on Thursday against Tennessee. And again, a pretty meaningless game unless Philadelphia loses one of their last two.
Seeing Mike McCarthy's like going to the holiday party and like, oh, hey,
yeah,
there's that person I don't want to be around. How long do I have to be here?
Right. Okay. And then the holiday party is the NFL playoffs.
Yeah, there you go. Party on, dudes. This one's a big one. Raiders and Steelers. Now, it's not a big one in terms of score. And my God, I almost, and Bloom, as everyone knows, I usually wake up to do the show, but my plan was to wear my Mean Joe Green jersey because God bless America. When you get those blocky letters on that black and yellow,
why did they ever take those numbers away?
They should never, ever change. I have a Cordell Stewart jersey that was from his Slash days, so it had the block numbers because when he wasn't Slash, when he was a quarterback, they went to the new font.
Yeah.
Dude, what are you doing? Just what are you doing? Like, go back to the block, because as soon as you see it, you're like, classic, intimidating, beautiful.
Yeah.
And
see, you're like the Grinch. Your heart goes bloop, 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 bloop,
bloop. 13-10, the final score. The game is whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
And George Pickens, Kenny Pickett. Yeah. All right. And then Darren Waller, and Hunter Renfrow, whatever. So the box score's available for anyone already. Derek Carr and his 3 picks. But like, just the patch on the jersey.
Yeah.
The response, everyone thinking about Franco, like it was just emotion in motion, and it was beautiful. I feel, why do I keep quoting Snowball from Clerks? Like, it's beautiful, man. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful. The Steelers and Raiders.
Yeah. Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, adding to that list of they got you this far, but maybe Josh Jacobs. I mean, the Adams is in a slump. You still got to play him if you're alive. Yeah. Hunter Renfrow comes back, makes a beautiful move on his touchdown. Darren Waller's doing enough to deserve a spot in your lineup. But still, for the Raiders, you have to wonder with Derek Carr, with Josh McDaniels, where's this team headed? What's going on? I don't know. Well, Las Vegas has a team. We thought we'd never live long enough to see that. It felt like we would never live long enough to be in a world without Franco Harris. I'll probably get a little choked up against these. I'm watching this game. I don't, this Steelers team, like, I don't want to care about the outcome of the games. I don't want to care about it because, like, why leave myself vulnerable to a team that I know is so limited? But watching this game, it was hard to not care and not get caught up in it, but also feel like, really, then Franco's night is going to be a story about how the Steelers are just not able to do it now, even though all the effort and all the heart is there. But I'm sorry for the Civil War reference. It was Pickett's charge. That final drive was the best drive he's had as a Steeler. It was the most meaningful drive he's had as a Steeler. It was a drive that maybe made you feel like, not that they crushed this Kenny Pickett pick, but look, they're not going to get to pick high enough to get a quarterback. I don't think they're going to package up 3 first-round picks to go up and get a quarterback. So this is what we got, Steelers fans. And from a fantasy standpoint, Pat Freiermuth was good. Deontay Johnson's coming on. Kenny Pickett to Pickens, the game-winning touchdown. You love seeing that. You love seeing George Pickens get that moment, because I think that he's one of those players that his contributions or ability hasn't even come close to being to his numbers meeting it. But in terms of meaningful plays, it meant it. This was a signature Steelers win. Even though there's barely anybody there. It was a signature Steelers win because NFL Network, what are you doing? Cutting away from the tribute video to Franco during halftime. Well, go to YouTube and watch it, folks. Please do.
Yeah.
It was a signature Steelers win because it comes all the way back to Franco. And what was the refrain that you heard when you heard people talking about Franco Harris, including the late, great Dan Rooney? We didn't win very much before we had Franco. after we had Franco, we won a lot. And you hear me and Joe Green say it, and you hear Tate Bradshaw say it, and you hear Jack Ham, another Penn State guy. As a Pitt guy, it hurts me to have to give all this credit to Penn State guys. That used to mean something too. In my grandparents' bar, where I got to be one of the mascots because we lived in the attic, and my mom and my aunt, good old coal miner bar. Every year when it was Penn State, all the people in the bar would ask, "Who are you rooting for?" And well, Pitt, and they'd be like, "Oh, come on, like, yeah!" And it was great. It was great as a kid. Anyway, and I think you could see two things, really and truly, as a Steelers fan, as somebody who grew up in this world where it was like you were born into this birthright because you were a Steeler fan, and these mythical heroes and these mythical achievements that were real. That it was Franco, really. It was Franco. I think that all the accounts that you heard about Franco were that I just almost like they didn't want to let him down because he would never let them down. And then the other story about Franco is just how much he meant to everybody. And I don't think there's any words. I think you just see the way that people talked about him. Even people like Najee Harris, like the people around the building.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Robinson told a story about Joe Paterno saying that he and Franco Harris were the two best players he ever coached. And he said that they had like this connection after that, like just this unspoken connection. There's so many people that had a connection to Franco. I think that it's almost like the Immaculate Reception it's a little clue. It's a little breadcrumb, because it's not about the play, and it's not even about the Super Bowls. It's about the transformative effect of this human being. And it was just there was no other way that the game was going to turn out than the Steelers are going to win.
Yeah. Yep. Grace and gratitude, Bloom. Sounds like a conversation we've had. Make sure you keep freshening up on that tea.
Yeah.
Because we got 3 games to go. Because we're done with Saturday. Now on to Sunday. And let's get to those games. And I know what you're thinking. I feel like Jerry Maguire when he got fired. Like, I know y'all don't want me to freak out, man. But I'm not going to freak out. Going to try not to. Has Nathaniel Hackett been fired yet? Press conference still on for 3:15. I'll tweet a screenshot of the email from the Broncos to say there's a press conference. Anyway, Packers, Dolphins. That is our next game. So much tea, Bloom. Packers and Dolphins, everybody. There you go. So let's talk about this one. 26-20. Tua, what are you doing? Russell Wilson says, hold my beer. Except Russell Wilson doesn't drink beer because he's not human. So hold my juice box. Anyway, Aaron Rodgers, touchdown and a pick, 238 on the day. Alan Lazard, 5 for 61 in this contest. Touchdown goes to the aforementioned Mercedes Lewis. Romeo Doubs, 3 for 36. Christian Watson, 6 for 49 in this one. A.J. Dillon, 11 for 36 and a rushing touchdown. Aaron Jones, 6 for 25 on the ground. 2 for 9 as receiver. Dillon had 2 for 12 as receiver. Tua, 3 picks, 1 touchdown. There was at one point, Tua had 7 completions for 180 yards or whatever it was, because it was just Jalen Waddle all day, 5 for 143 and a touch. Tyreek Hill, 4 for 103. Mike Gesicki, 1 for 24. Anyway, Raheem Mostert, 8 for 45. Jeff Wilson Jr. with the rushing touchdown as they work in tandem there. So Tua giving the game away, and Green Bay saying, thank you very much, South Beach. Merry Christmas.
Yeah. First of all, football on Christmas, I hope it doesn't happen again. But at least this game was a compelling game. Can't say about the other two, really.
Right.
Christian Watson really coming on, got hurt in this one. Alan Lazard, your number one going forward. Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, back to that split that we had projected all the way back at the beginning of the season. Dillon could easily had 2 touchdowns in this one, but both of them, I mean, you got to play Aaron Jones in week 17. A.J. Dillon, probably. It is a balanced offense. Aaron Rodgers playing okay, but really it was the defense. Green Bay is still very much alive now. They got to win. They need Washington to lose, and they can also hurt Minnesota by winning next week, by beating them next week. So it's not over. Tua to Waddle, Tua to Hill, same as ever. Don't trust a Miami running back, same as ever. But what you did see in this one was Tua throwing too many passes to the Packers, and Miami's on a major skid. Now they have to win out to make the playoffs, or they face the Jets and the Patriots, and they need to win one of those games and have the team that they lose to lose the other game, which, by the way, those two teams play each other. Or something like that, or Buffalo. I don't remember. But New England plays Buffalo. The Jets play Seattle. I got it straightened out. So it's getting complicated. It shouldn't have been so complicated for this team to make the playoffs. And you come all the way back around. Also, Cease. Like, is it Tua? I mean, I know that they're going to go forward to the answer, but I mean, from a long-term look, little cracks are showing. What would Brock Purdy do in this offense, right? He doesn't have a good enough arm to throw downfield, but you get it. You get my point here. 4 losses in a row. Got to stop the slide. And let's slide into a big bucket of slime.
Sliding on away. And oh boy. Just making sure Hackett hasn't gotten fired yet.
Yeah. See, wasn't it perfect though? I'll take the handoff here.
Okay.
Wasn't it perfect though? First of all, Nickelodeon's awesome. I was watching the game on Nickelodeon. It's awesome. I hope that we have a Nickelodeon game every week. What I really hope, Cease, is a future where you can toggle between like the serious NFL broadcast and then the Nickelodeon broadcast. There's so many games that would have been made better by the Nickelodeon broadcast. And it's great. You know why it's great, Cease? Because like this isn't that serious. Come on. It's football. Let's not take it so seriously. But here's why the Nickelodeon broadcast was fitting. Russell Wilson, the Broncos, have become the butt of the joke. They're the punchline in a cartoon. Because there has to be somebody who steps on the rake and hits themselves in the face, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what the Broncos have
They're
become.
Wile E. Coyote.
They're Wile E.
Nathaniel Hackett is a super genius.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah. And they're so magical that they're making Baker Mayfield and Cam Akers feel like they have great futures in the NFL. So
I would just like games where they just roast the other team. So Nickelodeon had a little bit of that. I was complaining on Twitter about it.
Well, remember Russell Wilson and Nickelodeon have a connection though. He's hosted award shows for them and stuff. So I think they were saying, even Kate noticed it when we were watching the games, because they were like, Russell Wilson hasn't had the best season. He's had a little bit of struggles this year. So I think they had to go light with the relationship there.
When Patrick the Starfish is blasting you, something's gone awry.
Yeah, Patrick was great though. All Patrick material was A+.
Yes. I thought I think my main issue with it, because whatever, the slime and all that, but my main issue was when the broadcaster's like, now here, kids, is what they call a timeout.
Yeah.
I'm like, and I put it on Twitter, the most important thing ever. I said, any kid that's actually watching this has either played sports or at least played Madden. And this is kind of my philosophy in general, like, don't treat children like they're morons because they're a lot smarter than you think.
That's fair. But these games,
they don't need you to explain a timeout. Now, here is a timeout, everyone. It's not like when your parents put you in timeout. Oh, God.
But that's fair, Cease. But to the NFL's credit, or to Nickelodeon and CBS's credit, maybe NFL has not very much to do with it. I don't know. They're trying. How many sports are even doing any sort of outreach to kids as viewers or as enthusiasts of the game?
And
they're trying.
Here's another topic for us, Bloom. The reason why they're trying is because kids are turning away from football, and parents are turning away from football because football is so dangerous, violent. And there's a lot of moms out there. It's okay, Mom. I know a lot of former players and their kids are wanting to play football, and they don't let them play football. The players that are there, the players that have the brain injuries, the players that are dealing with CTE, the players that are going to donate their bodies and their brains to science when they're done. So I agree with you, Bloom.
You're right.
But here's the thing. The NFL is an evil corporation. Okay. Or I should just say corporation. The NFL has bad intentions. So they're doing it's about the kids. Yeah, it's because you want kids to keep playing football, because without the kids playing football, your sport's going to die.
That's fair. And maybe we should just say, and that's the week 16 recap. and we'll see you whenever we launch our new podcast that doesn't have anything to do with football. Maybe one day. But anyway, it made this game watchable. How about that? For a Christmas miracle. But for fantasy, you got Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton's back. Craig Dulcich scored. We'll see what they do against Kansas City. Probably not much. So good news, Seattle fans. But Baker Mayfield, and since we talk about the magical thinking, we talk about how things that shouldn't happen can alter the career of a player. Why not Baker? And we'll see what happens with Matthew Stafford. But why not Baker Mayfield starting for this team eventually? You can see there's something there. Cam Akers. If you watch this game and you said, oh, well, the reason Cam Akers doesn't matter anymore is because he had an Achilles injury and it robbed him of something that he won't get back. It didn't look like that to me. He didn't look physically limited in any way to me in this game. Again, the magical thinking and maybe some carryover. And then Tyler Higbee with his touchdowns in this one. Been waiting for it. You don't get to face the Broncos every week. So bumming out the Detroit fans by getting a win, and they get to face it's the epic battle of LA next week.
Just fire Hackett, for the love of God. You never let an animal suffer, and you never let this is just if he's not fired today, it's just the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Like, seriously, you can start talking to coaches. There's 2 weeks left. You can get a 2-week stint with Jairo Evero, who might be on a D'Amico Ryans type of track.
Well, or
had his best buddy Nathaniel Hackett not screwed up this year.
Yeah, or at the very least, just show that there's accountability. Like, just show the organization, the people.
Right, you're gonna get shellacked like that. You're gonna lose 51 to whatever the hell. Like, what? They're gonna drop a 50 burger on you on Christmas with Baker Mayfield.
Yeah. Well,
so
we'll see.
Yeah, I kind of not being able to schedule anything because I'm like, Nathaniel Hackett could get fired at any moment.
Right.
So
which we've been in that state for what, 5 weeks, 6 weeks.
It's been a while. It's been a while. That is for sure. The Sirius broadcasts with Tony Romo, they just started just going off.
Yeah.
I'm serious. Any league that's bold enough, YouTube overlords, Pat McAfee or whoever has to do it, just get somebody to roast these guys. And people would watch that.
Yeah, I see
people
that.
Would watch
I can
that.
see that. They need the Sorry Joe Plus broadcasts of the NFL games.
Yep. And just a side note, Bloom, and I'll have to do further research, but I would like your opinion on this as well, because I'm about ready to break this one out on the Denver audience.
Okay.
Because there is some of my coworkers who are saying, like, Russell is the problem. And I'm not defending Russell Wilson, because he's been awful and he's not relatable at all. Don't have my cell phone. Call my agent. I will say this, because people say we've never seen this before. Yeah, we have. Brett Favre with the Jets.
Yeah.
Brett Favre with the Jets. Now, minus the Dick Cheney picks. Sorry, Joe.
Plus.
This is what it is. Now, when Brett Favre went to the Vikings, what happened? Played some pretty good football. Still didn't know what a nickel defense was, but he played some pretty good football. Am I misremembering that? Because Brett Favre with the Jets looked like he was done. Kurt Warner with the Giants. Kurt Warner with the Giants looked like he was done. And then with the Cardinals, he looked pretty damn good. So, again, and I'm about ready to debut this. So for my coworkers, and if anyone's curious, it's DMAC that's saying this. It's Russell Wilson. It's the number one problem. No, he's not, because it's all about fit. And when your head coach does nothing but bend over backwards and actually isn't a coach, but it's a best friend, and are you okay? Is Sierra okay? Sarah, tell her I said hi. I love your dance moves. Like, when your head coach is a baby and some would say has some cowardice on the sidelines when Dalton Reisner's pushing Brett Rippon. So I want to further examine that. I want to look at the data, maybe go back into the film archives and like just look at that. But we haven't ever seen this before. Yes, we have. We've seen veteran quarterbacks that go to their next team and they're like, oh my God. Kurt Warner was dealing with the thumb, remember, with the Giants, but that led to Eli Manning. And Kurt Warner was like, oh, he's done. And then he wasn't done. And Brett Favre with the Jets, minus the Dick Cheney picks. And God bless Dick Cheney, because then I can say Dick Cheney. You know what I mean? Sorry, Joe. Brett Favre with the Jets sucked. And then with the Vikings, it was pretty good. Now, what happened? Now they changed teams, but they also changed coaches. So Hackett is the number one problem. Russ is still a problem. Russ has work to do. Russ needs to wake the hell up. You're not going to be playing for 10 more years, Russ. You probably get about 4. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to be. You're not going to be remembered as one of the greatest of all time. You're going to be a guy that won a Super Bowl with the ground game and Marshawn Lynch is awesome. That's how you're going to be remembered, dude. It's pretty good. It's pretty good, but you're not Tom Brady, Peyton Manning on the track of Pat Mahomes. That's not you. That's not you. So someone needs to tell him that. It's probably going to be Dan Quinn. But Bloom, I was just thinking about that, and I wanted to toss it to you.
Yeah.
And I know we have another game left, but whatever.
Sure.
We're just kind of vibing. We've seen it before. Kurt Warner and Brett Favre.
Yeah. Well, I think honestly, Cease, and I'm peeking through keyholes. That if you look through the keyhole, there's another keyhole, and you look through that keyhole, there's another keyhole. Okay, I don't have 0.0001% of the access and knowledge that you have in this situation, but from where I stand, because Kate was asking me to explain this yesterday as we're watching this game, she's like, "I thought Russell, wait, what's happening? Like, why? Huh? This doesn't make any sense." I think at this point you have to wonder what's most important to Russell Wilson. Is it what's left of his football career or what's coming after his football career?
Right.
And I think that's basically the crux of the issue. And whatever he says or whatever he thinks or whatever he wants other people to think or whatever he projects, somewhere deep down in his heart, there's an answer to that question. And if the answer is that his life after football, which he's been doing an incredible job building, and to Russell Wilson's credit, he was, I think, one of the first NFL players to really understand that you're a brand. Before there was name and likeness in college, before the name, image likeness, before there was TB12, right? Before there was a lot of the stuff. I think Russell Wilson really understood, hey, I'm a brand, and there's a lot more money for me after football if I can successfully build that, and he's done that. But you're still a football player. You still have your football family and fan base that is depending on you. Are you going to act appropriately with those things in mind? Or is it all really okay because, hey, I'm Russell Wilson and I've got the greatest life ever, can't you tell?
And the threes are a dumb name for your fans. Like the 12th man makes sense, even if you ripped it off from Texas A&M. Like the 12th man makes sense, right? We're part of the 12s. Yeah. Cool. That's cool. It makes sense. The threes. Ain't nobody want to be a 3, baby. Come on. Come on. All right. Tommy Brady. There you go, Bloom. Oh, boy. Tom Brady, everybody.
Yeah, rallying to beat Trace McSorley.
There you go. Like, let's tie a bow on this thing with a 1916 scorcher.
Yeah.
No more football on Christmas.
No more football.
No more football. I feel like at the end of PCU, they're like waving the flag. Like, we won't want to protest. We're not gutters a tool. Like, no more football on Christmas. This was awful.
Yeah. I mean, and then see, I guess let's end on that note as we're doing the Rare Monday recap. And on this note that, well, first, let me just recap this game real quick for fantasy. Tom Brady, mediocre like always. Russell Gage, Chris Godwin, Rashad White, not Mike Evans. So if you're bold enough to say, yeah, Mike Evans ain't getting it done, he's not in my lineup, you might have profited from that. We'll see you against Carolina next week. JC Horn has a broken wrist. Wanted to see Horn against Evans. It was Leonard Fournette's show here, and I would expect that going forward. So I don't think we're going to get a lot of questions about Leonard Fournette next week. But Tampa Bay has to beat Carolina next week. There's other scenarios and things that can happen, but basically Tampa Bay and Carolina is the NFC South championship next week. I was looking at I watched A Christmas Story on Christmas, of course, you're supposed to. Or maybe it was Christmas Eve. I don't remember. Anyway, my point is, there's that great moment. One of the first critiques of capitalism, Cease, right? Drink your Ovaltine, right? What?
Yeah.
And that was kind of like Greg Dortch, right? Greg Dortch? Wait, the key to winning your fantasy championship is going to be Greg Dortch and James Conner. And those of you, so you got both sides of the coin, right? And you're like, you saw that Trace McSorley was starting. You're like, ain't no way I'm putting DeAndre Hopkins in my lineup. You were right. You said, nah, I think James Conner can still be okay, even though it's a matchup against Tampa. Yeah, James Conner was all right. Another Penn State running back, right? Making good things happen for Pittsburgh at one time. So Arizona's playing out the string against Atlanta. Let's go back to football Christmas really quick, okay? Again, I'll start here. People will come to me in the offseason because they associate me with fantasy football, and they'll say, Sig, I'm sorry, I don't have time to play fantasy football this year. I had to give up my leagues or something like that. And I say, great. That's great. You have something more important in your life. That's awesome. Congratulations, right? And I'm biting the hand that feeds me. I don't know. I don't care. I'm too old to care about those things now. And I hope that for all of you, and of course, we love football so much. We love talking about sports and watching sports so much that we made it our profession. But at the same time, there has to be things in your life more important than watching sports and your fantasy football teams. And I even to put people in that position on Christmas and say, am I going to watch football? Am I going to spend time with my family? Or even just be in the spirit or mindset of the time of rebirth, right? Of the time of good things come to those who have good hearts and are willing to be patient, right? Isn't that what Christmas is about, right? I think that there has to be a line. There has to be a point where you say that no. And I hope for everybody out there that it did give you a chance to say, I'm not going to sit in front of the TV for 10 hours today and watch these games because there's something that's more important to me. And if these words maybe are hitting too close to home, and at different times in my life it would hit too close to home. Okay, I'm not trying to say this is not a holier than thou thing. This is something I've learned. All of the advice I give is always directed at myself first, right? So I hope that it helped people have some clarity about what really matters. And even though this show's about fantasy football in the NFL, what matters is my dear friend, my brother from another mother, Cecil Lammey, and all of the football guys, crew, and everybody in our chat room, and all the relationships. I know Ray's been here. Looking forward to see you again soon, Ray. That's what makes any of this mean anything in the first place.
To that, I would say double true. He's Sigmund Bloom. I'm Cecil Lammey. We are the Audible, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. As always, be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated. Stay tuned, and please, I ask you, stay frosty.